Hello and welcome to the first episode of The Circle, Healing Through Restorative Justice. I'm your host, MJ, and today I have the pleasure of being in the company of Pina Catalano. She is my colleague here at SDRJ. She is our wonderful, incredible, amazing program coordinator. Do you want to say hi to everyone, Pina?
Good morning, everybody. It is very nice out today.
It
It's
must
very
be.
sunny.
It's cold here.
It's compared to yesterday, it's very nice. Very warm.
Yeah, well, you're very lucky. So, for those who may not know, I work remotely all the way out in North Bay, a total hour and almost a half from Sudbury, where Pina is. And sometimes our weather does differentiate. So, today, like this morning, it was like 2 degrees when we got up. It was awful. I couldn't stand it.
I think it's like 10 degrees here right now. Maybe like up to 15. I haven't looked, but
So,
it's
what you're
warm.
telling me is I have to come back to Sudbury
Yeah,
if I want to be
I
warm.
will continuously tell you to come back to Sudbury. We miss you having you at the office every day.
I miss being there too. But thank you for being here today, Pina. I really appreciate your time. As you know, this is our very first episode of this podcast. It's going to be an extension of like a listen and learn series, which thank you to anyone who has been showing support to that series on our website. We appreciate it so much. I have a lot of fun making those. And we figured that this podcast would be a really nice adjacent to that. So today we're just going to start talking a little bit about restorative justice. What I want to know is how you got involved in the world of restorative justice. How'd you get here? You know, when we met, we were both in college. We are both graduates of Cambrian College in Sudbury, myself in communications, herself in social service work. So how did you get involved in the world of restorative justice?
So, as you mentioned, like I was a um, student at Cambrian College for the social service worker program, and part of our programming and our curriculum is to do a 4-month co-op at an agency in our area. And so I was lucky to get placed at Restorative Justice. And at first I was very skeptical of it because like I didn't want to work with youth. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. I figured I'd get mad at the youth more than anything. During my placement, I was able to view how our programming, our conflict management programming, is affecting these youth. And I'm working with youth in the justice system, and I'm hearing about all this trauma that these kids have gone through. And part of our programming is for the kids to be able to learn and understand how that trauma has affected their behavior. And I think that is something that just really stuck with me because I originally wanted to go into women against violence and domestic violence and crisis. And little did I know that at Restorative Justice, we do a lot of behind the scenes crisis management and trauma
Mm.
management. And I think that's what kind of like really drove me to this work. And then I had to take some time off. And when I was coming back up to Sudbury, our lovely executive director and I had a couple of conversations about restorative justice and the impacts that um, our programming is making on youth in our community. And it really just sparked my interest because when I was a placement student, I got to witness cases from start to finish, what they look like, and seeing the difference in the kids' behavior and the kids' demeanor and kids' approach to life after they've completed the programming. It's really just like it made me feel wholesome. And so I I now I joke and I call them my kids because I get to watch them grow and watch them learn more about themselves and their behavior and the effects on it. And it just blows my mind because it's something that 2 years ago I never thought like was possible. I never thought I had very um a very traditional view on the justice system. And I grew up in a town that really we didn't see the justice system involved with our youth mainly. A lot of it was mental health, yes, but you know, kids get into a fight at school, if they get suspended, you just ignore it, right? However,
Mhm.
here, I think we take the approach to the justice system very seriously, one, and also it's broadly known about the effects of the youth justice system more specifically.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. No, you literally took the words out of my mouth. So you and I were in a same boat when we came to SDRJ. So myself, I'm not a social service worker. That's not my background. I graduated with a PR and communications degree. That's my thing. How the hell do I go from PR to restorative justice? Um, so I really like the way that you were talking about being able to watch these kids transform. Restorative justice can also be known as transformative justice, and that's something that I've learned in my time here at SDRJ. It's quite interesting going from our traditional views of justice over to restorative. So, for people who don't know, restorative justice is an alternative to what's known as colonial or traditional justice, like Pina and I were just discussing. So, we offer alternative paths to lead to healing rather than punishment outright. We want to be able to give these youth the tools and the education to be able to better themselves in the long run. Yes, what they did was wrong, 100%. We are teaching these kids that they need to take accountability and responsibility for the actions that they've committed, essentially. But we want to show them that there are other alternatives rather than just straight up punishment. So some of the programming that Pina takes care of, Pina, I'll let you get into that. Um, Tell me a little bit about the programming that we offer here at SDRJ, and some of maybe the success stories that you've seen.
yeah. So our programming, there's a couple different things we do. So we have our main program, that's our conflict management coaching program. And that program, we specifically take a look at the brain, the functions of the brain, how trauma and fight or flight correlate with one another. Then we talk about conflict and the effects of conflict on our community and ourselves. Because often when we're working or when we're fighting with somebody or there's a conflict with somebody, it's not just with another person. There are many other different factors involved. You have your meso, your micro levels with that contribute to the conflict and affect other people. So we talk about a lot about conflict and the effect it has on other people. And then we jump into cognitive distortions. And cognitive distortions are that little voice in your brain that kind of drives your behavior, drives your anxiety, drives your stress. And so we break those cognitive distortions down. We understand what they are, what they mean to us, and then how to challenge them using our personal example, like their personal examples and things that are going on in their life. Because I find that when we're talking about the conflicts that are going on in their life, I can directly pinpoint which cognitive distortion they're experiencing right now. So I can pull it up and then right there, we're breaking it down so that we're breaking down that barrier they have with themselves. And that's what I find drives a lot of conflict is a barrier within ourselves placed onto another person. So we talk about that. And then we go into self-regulation, how to manage ourselves and those barriers. And we talk about maladaptive coping mechanisms. Then we also use this thing. I took it out of my finance class in college, if I'm being honest, but we use it called SMART goals. It's when we what's an algorithm? Is that what they're
Mhm.
called? Not an
Yeah,
algorithm.
it's like a
The
theory. So SMART goals, it's
breakdown.
it's
Smart or not smart. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. Like what's that
acronym.
acronym? That's the word I was looking for. My brain's turned off. So yeah. So it's an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, realistic, and timely. And so what we do is we take a maladaptive coping mechanism that the kids are using and we break down a SMART goal on how to transform it into a positive mechanism. So we do that and then the kids go home or the next session and their project or their exit ticket is for them to test out this healthy coping mechanism in real life. And so the next week is our final session. It's conflict management strategies, where we learn the different types of strategies. And these kids come back and we break it down. Okay, how did that healthy coping mechanism work out for you? And if it didn't work out, we try a new one. And it's a trial and error. Not every kid, I will never ask. It's like I will never ask a 15-year-old boy to go sit and meditate for an hour in his room.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck with that one. But I will ask a 15-year-old boy who is getting assault charges over and over again to go to kickboxing, to go and get him boxing stuff so that he can do the same type of exercise or the same type of emotional release in a socially acceptable place where we're not
Exactly.
continuously harming others. I don't care if you're taping a picture of that person's face onto your boxing thing, as long as you're getting out in a healthy way that isn't negatively affecting others. That is like the huge stepping point. And then our last session, when we talked about conflict management strategies, a part of that, the end of the session is, okay, so you've taken responsibility now for your actions. Now it's time to take accountability. What are we going to do about it? You've learned how your actions have affected yourself, how to help yourself in the situation, but there's still an individual who's been harmed.
Exactly.
So the main aspect of that last session is like, okay, now let's take accountability. What can we do to repair that harm or help build the bridge back up that we just burned? Right. So that's our conflict management program. And then we also do mediation. So I am a trained mediator. I've done my training through CPI, which is I can't even think of, that's another acronym that I don't know the name to. Anyways, but they have a transformative mediation a certificate. So I have my mediation certificate, and this is when we go into schools, the community, even with the youth that were working in the justice system, and we bring both the individual who's been harmed and the individual who has harmed together. And of course, there's a lot of prepare work. We sit with both of them and we ask them 5 questions. We work with both the individuals beforehand, and then we bring them together in a safe space where they can both address their perspectives while having one of us to mediate the conversation so that no further harm can be done. And then we've done some other programming. We've built a healthy relationships program. And this is a program that specifically is with youth who don't necessarily, or who have not necessarily had a consistent caregiver role, or has a lack of support. Mm-hmm. And they're struggling to make healthy relationships in their community and at home. So in that program, we really focus in on who we are, because if we cannot have a healthy relationship with ourselves, we cannot expect to have a healthy relationship with others. Exactly. So the huge point to that program is focusing on our values, our attitudes, our beliefs, and then using those to create a pathway for us to understand others and how their values and beliefs. And it was funny, I was literally just talking about this before I even came here. I was talking to an individual about how in our life, if you have a value, you have a belief that, one, everybody should be treated equally, and 2, that we should almost be picking and choosing our battles in life. Yeah. And that comes with healthy relationships, because sometimes, as much as we don't like another person, as much as what the other person's doing to us is going to hurt us mentally, we have to understand that at the end of the day, they're going to do whatever they're going to do.
Exactly. 100%.
No matter what we say, that doesn't mean necessarily they're going to have an influence on us. Do you know how many conversations I have a day that don't have an influence on how I react and how I talk? So one thing that we have to understand is, especially in high school when it's just petty drama, is that when these
Mm-hmm.
individuals are coming to us and we're dealing with these unhealthy friendships, we have to understand that one, setting boundaries is huge. So we talk a lot about boundaries. We talk a lot about consent. We talk a lot about being able to let people go without the drama. Understanding that friendships just don't work out or that relationships just don't work out is a huge part. It's a huge pill to swallow, one, but it's a huge part to
Exactly.
realizing how, okay, we need to take a step back, understand what we need in a relationship and in a friendship, and now put that out there to others.
That's
So
so
that's
hard
our
to do as a teenager. Like, even thinking back to my high school days, right? That was a very big time socially for almost everybody, right? Where you will sacrifice your own, we call them VABs here. So your values, your attitudes, and your belief system. You will sacrifice those for the sake of being included, because that's what drives a lot of people, especially youth. During my time as a facilitator, that's what I saw a lot of too with the youth that I used to work with.
mm,
Like putting your own thoughts and beliefs aside to be like, because I just want to be liked. I just want them to like me. I just want to be accepted. I just want to have friends. But building those healthy relationships with yourself and being able to set those boundaries and being able to properly understand consent is huge. So I can imagine that's can be very tricky for you. Like, some of these youth are probably, they'll fight back quite a bit.
oh, I've had kids refuse to talk to me for months and months on end. And it's not necessarily they're refusing to talk to me because we're denying services because they don't want to be here, but they're denying services because that means that they have to actually change. Because putting somebody, like, when you go to a service, right? Whether it's counseling services or doctors, right? If you go to somebody about a problem, what do you expect? Advice or to change something.
Right.
So when these individuals are coming to me, a lot of them don't want to talk or don't want to open up at first because um, that means that they have to make a change in their life. That means that they have to trust another person, and it can be hard to break their shell. But like I said, I've had kids who've denied services for months and months on end, and um, all of a sudden they say the kids say I manipulate them into doing more with me,
Oh my
but
gosh.
but I'm able to connect with them, and like sure enough, I have kids that are doing 5, 6 more sessions that they didn't even want to be here a month and a half ago, and now they're requesting me for me to be more involved in their life or like in their conflicts and stuff like that, and they're coming to me when they really have problems going on or when they're stressed out or I'm always a phone call away. They know that. So I think it's challenging, yes, but then you, like I said, you see the progress in them and you see like before when they're being reluctant to be around you and to deal with these situations and then they're calling you and freaking out because something's going on. Some people are like, oh, like they can't call somebody every time they have a problem. But what they don't understand is they weren't telling people they had a problem 3 months
Mm-hmm.
ago. So the fact that not only are they able to admit they have a problem, they're able to admit, okay, I need help right now. They're able to make that phone call themselves and say, okay, what do I do? Or how do I manage this? And it's not me telling them how to manage their conflicts. We just break it down together. And by the end, they know what they need to do. They just
Exactly.
need someone to help break it down. And a lot of the individuals that we work with, parents aren't willing to do that,
Right.
right? Because it's just another problem. It's a petty problem. But as you said, like in high school, those things matter to you. They make a difference in your life, the way that you were treated, who you were around. So being able to have somebody to break it down, it's just a huge progress. And watching that progress just melts my heart.
100%. I think we should start a petition to change the term restorative justice to transformative justice. Reason being, that is 100% the underlying result that we get anytime that we've had a youth go through any of our restorative justice programming, or just seeing it in general, like youth who have been through, or even adults who have been influenced by the restorative justice system, have been transformed into different people, myself included. I'm not excluding myself from this. Again, when I came into the world of restorative justice, I was ignorant. I had no idea. I had blinders on. It wasn't until I met our executive director, Jackie, who you guys will be meeting very soon. And many of you listening probably already know her. She opened my eyes in ways that I didn't know was possible. Again, we grew up in a society, we live in a society where justice is justice, right? Like that's just what it was. You do something bad and you're punished. That's it. You do something bad at school, you're suspended or you're expelled. End of story. I didn't know that there was a whole other avenue where we were actually allowed to learn and grow and transform from these mistakes that we made. Because that's what they are, essentially, for the most part, is mistakes or just outcomes of trauma or trying to cope with situations that a lot of people may just not know about. Sometimes we just react. There are people who are just plain and simple reactive. And a big part of the programming we offer at STRJ involves emotional regulation, empathy, accountability, responsibility. That, again, like you were saying, some of these youth may not have experienced at all in their lives. It's so quick and easy to just dismiss a youth as they're just a troubled kid. There's so much more than that. There is a person in there. There's an individual in there who can grow and who can learn. And you have had some of the toughest cases that I have ever heard of, where they will fight you. They don't want to be there. Fast forward 6 months, and it's like, whoa, who is this person? They are completely transformed by the power of restorative justice. They are on their healing journey. You have given them the tools and the expertise and the guidance to be able to show them that there are other avenues. Yeah, you can be angry. You can be as angry as you want and you can hate the world, but there are ways to navigate it that are healthy, that won't hurt anyone, and most importantly, won't hurt yourself. So I think that is absolutely phenomenal. Before we wrap up this session, Pina, overall, I want to get your thoughts on restorative justice. Why do you think it's important that the world knows what restorative justice is and understands it?
So I'm going to bring it back to what you said about mistakes, is that as we grow, if we never admit that we've made a mistake, how are we ever supposed to learn from it? And that is like what I think about with restorative justice. It's a way of living that allows you to make those mistakes, yes. It allows you to take accountability for them. It allows you to take responsibility for them. And then it allows you to connect with the person we've harmed and say, I know that I've made this mistake. I've put work in to make sure that I don't make this mistake again. I am doing my due diligence and repairing the harm that I've caused. And we are taking that accountability and we're just opening it up for people to take it as it comes. Like we cannot force, like I can never force myself or force another person to forgive me. And that's not what necessarily restorative justice is. I think restorative justice, when we talk about it, it's that complete, like you said, transformative justice. And specifically like in school systems and stuff, kids are consistently getting suspended, consistently getting expelled, but there's no work being done for them.
No, exactly.
And so restorative justice is giving kids that opportunity to say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I don't have a good values and belief system to base my decisions off of. I don't necessarily have a good upbringing. And so I need to learn how that's going to affect me and how it's going to affect the rest of my life. So I think that's what restorative justice means to me, is taking that time to understand how our actions have had consequences on other people, yes, but how our actions have had consequences on ourselves and our mind and our future. Because if, like I said before, if we never make a mistake, how are we supposed to learn? Well, we're never going to build those healthy relationships if you never learn from those mistakes. You're never going to repair the harm if you never learn from those mistakes. You're never going to continue to build relationships in your future if you aren't making those mistakes. And those relationships, not necessarily high school relationships, are critical, but when you go off to college, those relationships are critical. With your peers, and your teachers and authoritative figures, those relationships are. So I think restorative justice isn't just a transformative justice for right now, it's a transformative justice for your future.
Beautifully said. 100% Pina. I can't agree more. I think this is why we work so well together, is we think we think along the same wavelength all the time. And you're right, it is transformative, not just for now, but for the future. Pina, thank you for joining me in this circle today. Thank you for contributing to this wonderful healing journey that we're both on, our youth are on, and anyone listening to this may be on. If you guys want to know more about restorative justice or find out more about the programming Pina does, feel free to visit our website, www.sdrj.ca, or find us anywhere online at RJ Sudbury. Again, thank you, Pina, for joining me in the circle today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, MJ. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you too. We'll see you guys later.